Sorry everybody about all the technical glitches today. These things happen when you are trying to put out a live broadcast from the middle of, well, random places in Africa. So these kinds of things happen. But hopefully that will be the last one. If not, well, you know, we'll take it as it comes. Right. So very exciting that Steve has managed to find the Nkuhuma Pride, because myself and, nope, I thought I'd turn that off. Craig and I this morning went driving down in the direction looking for the Nkuhumas. I gave myself such a fright. I thought, there's another one of me. How terrifying. Thank goodness I don't have a twin. So they weren't there. So they've obviously moved during the day. Now, what I do want to show you is something from way back when, in 2017. Who remembers when one of the older Nkuhuma lionesses got a bit of an injury on her hip? Shall we take a little look? So I'm going to go through over here. Now I've got to get my computer ready. I'm apologizing now because I'm a technological dinosaur. Right. 1, 2, 3. So there she is. This is going to be quite graphic, unfortunately. So if you're grossed out, you can step away. You can see, look at that wound. Sure, very raw. You know, I've been trying to examine all of this and figure out exactly what was going on. But it's hard to sort of say. It's a bit of a gash. It looks like there's a piece of flesh that's sort of torn and hanging off. But it kind of looks to me like a big graze. If any of you have ever been skateboarding or riding a bike and fallen off, you would know what that kind of feels like. But she didn't have a limp there either, which is pretty spectacular, because that is a serious, serious wound. So this is sort of when it first happened. And Tristan said she'd come out of the Kruger National Park. Right, that's clip 1. That's the beginning. That's when we first discovered this lioness with that injury. I think it's quite fascinating, of course. I have no idea what happened. None of us can. We've discussed this, you know, over and over again. It doesn't look like she was hit by an animal. So the thing is, okay, I'm going to quickly show you the next clip as well now, just because we've lost a little bit of time. Sorry, I can't open 3 things at once. This computer doesn't like me to do that. So here we go. Are you ready? Don't freeze on me. There we go. So this is now a little bit later. You can see how it started to heal. This goes all the way up to, I think, 2018. So look how it's healed nicely. I'll discuss in a minute about this entire thing. So look at that. So a lot of that chunk of flesh has pretty much, it almost looks like she stitched herself up somehow, but you know, of course she hasn't. The skin has just regenerated from a lot of grooming. She's also no limp there. She's fine. She's put on a little bit of weight again. And that wound, that kind of wound we see quite regularly in a lot of different animals, takes quite some time to heal, because they're going to constantly keep licking at it to try and keep it nice and clean. You can see there's quite a bit of blood on her chin. If you look very, very closely, you can see just around her cheek. That's just showing how often she's keeping that wound cleaned. And it's going to keep it nice and sort of moist. So it'll take a little bit longer. I'll tell you another story about another animal which I've seen something like this sort of happen. And there she goes, still hanging around with the pride. She got a couple of scratches all over her back too. So she wasn't doing too well. She lost a lot of muscle tone during this. But when you heal, it does take quite a bit of time. And of course the flies hanging around on the wound as they normally do. They can't resist themselves. This is again a couple of months later. Look at that. Look at that. Almost completely healed. And it's not leaving too bad of a scar either. April, you're quite right. She doesn't look bothered. So that says to me that the bone was fine. It was just sort of a flesh wound, which is pretty amazing. There we go. That's the end of that clip. So we've been discussing kind of what happened. We think there could have been a number of different things. Maybe she fell out of a tree and she landed on the ground. It's sort of like an impact wound. And she landed on a stump or something like that. We know lions like to scavenge carcasses from leopards. Often. We've seen them up in trees a couple of times, especially the Birmingham boys. So that could have been one of the possibilities. Or perhaps she grabbed onto an animal, and something big like a buffalo. Sometimes you'll see lion, or even a zebra, you'll see lions grabbing them, and the animal still runs away. She could have been dragged slightly. She could have hit a stump. She could have hit a rock. She could have hit anything. And it tore just a little bit. So very interesting. Now, Rosalind, lions get injured fairly often. As you can imagine, it's pretty hectic for them to be out here in the wild, and they don't catch small things. Whenever they can, they'll bring down the biggest prey possible: buffalo, zebra, kudu, wildebeest. You know, we saw the Nkuhumas the other night. They snatched a what did they got? They got an antelope, an impala. So these kinds of things are fine. Even an impala is dangerous, however, to something like a lion. So they have to be careful. Every time they go out on a hunt, they put themselves at risk. The same thing goes if they get into a territorial dispute, which they don't really want. They can get injured too. But luckily, animals are so tough and they're able to heal themselves. Remember, we didn't intervene at all with that lioness. It was a natural injury as far as we could see, and you could see it didn't affect her in terms of her walking. She definitely wasn't hunting with the pride, though. She was laying back, so I think when she was running, it probably got a little bit sore, but she was still there to feed on the carcasses. So she lost condition. She lost all her muscle tone. You could almost see every rib and every vertebrae in her body, but she was just getting enough food. She was resting, sleeping long enough. She was grooming that wound. She didn't get an infection. And it just goes to show we don't always have to intervene. These animals are accustomed to dealing with these situations out there where we would be rushed to the ICU. These animals can sort themselves out. And if they can't, survival of the fittest. That's just one of those things. But lions are particularly strong. It's very warm in here. Very, very hot. As you can see, I'm now breaking out into a sweat. It's the sauna. Okay, well, we're going to carry on looking around here, and I'm going to keep my eyes out in case a leopard decides to pop past. Off you go, back to Steve, who's not too far away from us.
Well, Taylor, I suppose if you take some of the bandages off your head, you probably won't be sweating as much. But anyway, we are still with the Nkuhumas here. The Impala's started alarm calling off to our left-hand side, and it's got a few of these individuals up and looking around. And as Taylor spoke about the injured lioness, she is with the pride. You can only count 5 of them at the moment, and her injury is looking much better than it used to. When I started beginning of last year, it was looking absolutely hideous. But it is incredible, the healing potential that these animals have got. There she is. We were watching the wound a little while ago. There were some flies still flying about it, but she's also sat up. Oh, there we go. A little bit of a yawn. Here we go. But she's an old girl, and that's one of the benefits of being in a pride, is you can get injured, and, well, you can follow the pride around still, and you still get pickings at the food table, which means you can still build up your strength. And it's amazing how, with an injury like that, an animal can still survive. A leopard, with an injury like that, very hard to say whether it would have managed to basically survive, because it's tricky not only to walk and run, but to climb a tree would be quite difficult. And that's why our leopards often shy away from confrontation, because they can't afford an injury like that. But not only her, there we go, he's still a bit yawny. Hopefully they're going to get up and cross over the road into Djuma. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But the Mangeni male is possibly with the pride here somewhere. And how far have they come? Well, there were 2 of them. Apparently there were 3 originally. But he's looking so much better. I can't pick him out amongst the pride at the moment. I can only count 5. So who knows if he is here or if they're lying in a bush a little bit further away. But the mange that he had, not an injury per se, but still the healing required to bring him back into health, has looked quite good. And I think it's also due in part to the fact he's been able to sort of share in the food that the Nkuhuma pride, the very successful pride, has managed to catch over the last while. But we haven't seen them with any food in the last while. Taylor had the 3 females with an impala shortly a few days ago, but it's been a while since I've seen the Nkuhumas with full bellies. But if there's any place in the world where lions are generally full all the time, it's up in the Masai Mara.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me here in the Masai Mara. My name is Patrick, and joining me on camera today is Archie. And now we've had a little bit of excitement earlier on in this drive. So we have the pride of lions here, and they were chasing a warthog, which they successfully got and managed to kill. And I believe they have already devoured it. I counted 7 lions, so I think they have already devoured it. It was probably about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, that they made the kill. And I think they've gone through it. They took it into the bushes, and now they've kind of emerged out to go for a rest. And now we believe this is the marsh pride, which is not often seen. I thought it was the olololos at first, but Archie seems to think it's this marsh pride, and I think I agree as well. So there is potential that they could go out and hunt again, because I just don't think that warthog would have satisfied this many lions. I'm glad they did come out though. They were hiding in a very tricky spot for us. Archie will show you now. They were all the way. We'll see where, yeah, that one's coming out now, kind of in there. And they were right hidden in the bushes. So we couldn't really get a good shot of it, but now they've all shown us their beautiful faces. There's about 5 females. I did see a male as well, but can't see where he is right now. It was a younger male, probably looked about 4. There he is there. Yeah, 3 or 4. There's 2 males. 2 males right there. Starting to get that beard development happening nicely now. Starting to grow into men. Anyway, let's have a look last week when we caught up with the Salt Lick Pride and Kapuli. Lounging in the shade, Isaac was thrilled to find the Salt Lick Pride females, accompanied by a friendly face, Kapuli. The full mane males seemed to be enjoying the feminine company and change in scenery. The 2 young cubs bounded through the grass close by, without any response or reaction from him. Although the other members of the pride were nowhere to be seen, the females appeared content, avoiding the harsh morning sun and enjoying a few moments of peace before the cub chaos continued. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry, we're just moving a bit for these cars. There's a few cars here at this siding with us, so just had to move for them. So I'm just going to get back into position now. Stop. Yeah. Sorry. These roads are not the greatest right now after the rains and... Stop. And there we go. Well, we're going to stay here and stake out these lions, see if they do anything else. In the meantime, though, let's go and see James in Juma.
So things have calmed down here at the hyena den. I need to not make a noise. I need to remember, of course, that we are in the presence of infants and they might get upset if I make a loud noise. Here we have June and her 2 youngsters, and they are all, or both, suckling, having a bit of a fight. But interestingly, the littlest one, which is the one closest to us, seems to have gained sufficient strength to actually start fighting out with her slightly bigger sibling. And I'm saying her, but I don't know that. I, in fact, think the little one is a male. And so originally seemed to be kind of really struggling, this little cub. And I think for a while, those who first found her thought he or she might not make it. But now seems to have gained some strength and is standing up for himself. Anyway, they are suckling very quietly and very peacefully. Last week, during this very show, the 37th episode of Safari Lives, we had an extremely exciting introduction.
At long last, Shidulu decided to grace us with an introduction to her offspring. While we only saw one Hukudulu, so named for their father Hukumuri and their mother, we are reliably informed the other is just fine. This is a roughly 10-week-old leopardess and already demonstrates impressive agility and care in the branches. She elicited the inevitable oohs, ahs and ach schnookums, no man that's so cute, from all of us. Mum seems to be doing a fine job of raising her first litter, and let's hope they come and spend a bit more time with us.
So that was tremendous, it really was. Unfortunately, Shidulu has returned to Arathusa and not come back into this particular part of the world, which is obviously a little bit sad for us, but hopefully they'll come across and spend a bit more time on Juma. Like I said in that clip, both of the cubs are apparently absolutely fine, now around about 11 weeks old. They look quite small for that, but, you know, we don't see leopard cubs every day, so it's very easy to misage them. The Arathusa guys tell me that they are about 11 to 12 weeks old now, and of course they have been watching them since the day they were born. So, very nice to meet them, and I was struck by how careful that little cub was in the tree, and I was also struck by the contrast between her approach, and we did manage to sex that cub, as definitely a female. Very interested to see how careful and I suppose considered she was, although she did adventure around the tree quite a lot. She didn't slip at all. She always looked completely in control of her movements in the tree, and I was taken back to the early sights of a Hosanna trying to do the same thing, and he just never managed that level of competence up in the branches, I don't think. It was also, I mean, obviously every leopard is different, and it's fascinating to see those differences. We seem to have stopped suckling now, and now we're going to have a bit of playtime. So that, I think, is the little male, and quite possibly a little female. Yeah, definitely a male. I've just had a glimpse of the penis. Ravinda, the Djuma clan needs a den because the Djuma clan has got cubs. So all hyena clans that have cubs will have a den. This is obviously a clan roughly, I'm going to say about a third, 25% maybe, the size of the North clan in the Masai Mara, and they also have a den. They just don't have termite mounds like we have here, and that's because the soil there is very different. It's that thick black cotton soil, and the termites don't build mounds like they do here. Because of the soil difference. And so hyena clans everywhere have dens unless they find themselves in the very unusual position of not having any young cubs at all, or any cubs under, let's say, 10 months. So that's why they have a den. The den provides all the security that the cubs need. It keeps them safe from predators, it keeps them dry when it's wet, obviously just like young human beings. These young animals are not able to regulate their temperature quite as effectively as adults can, and so they need the insulation provided by this little, or this very large termite mound. Termite mounds, of course, are renowned for the insulation they provide, and so that is why they have a den, Ravinda. Now, I must just say that I thought Taylor's outfit today was exceptional to start with. I'm not sure if she's changing costumes every segment or if she has now removed the bandage from her head, but kudos to her for her embracing of the subject of injury.
I've changed. New hour, new me. No, I'm joking. I don't know. Is that how the models do it? No, it's so hot in this tent that unfortunately I had to take the bandages off. But we'll see what else we can find in the first aid kit. But I don't really want to waste supplies. So I tried to use the oldest, not grimiest stuff, but the things that were reaching their expiry date. So yes, like that glove will never be worn again because the amount of sweat that was in it after my hand was in it. Not great. Right. So, seeing as though the theme is injuries, Jeandre has injured himself twice. He's pricked his foot on some thorns outside. So we've got that. So we've got real life injuries. But he didn't bleed profusely, so he's fine. But somebody else that had a worse off injury was a lion by the name of Mfumo, who was part of the Birmingham Coalition, as some of you may remember. There he is. Are you ready? Look at that gaping hole in his face. Look how swollen his nose are. You can almost see that his right eye is not quite opening as wide as what it should. But that's because of that big hole that you can see there. You can see some of this hair is moved away. It's going to be all gross, and if you squeal a little bit, maybe you shouldn't watch so closely. But all the injuries seem to happen in 2017. So you can see that obviously some uncomfort. So this is when it sort of first happened, when we first discovered it. It was quite sudden, actually. We'll discuss in a minute. We're going to watch all the clips, and then we're going to discuss kind of what happened. But it started off with a tiny little nick. It didn't look like much, and the swelling got more and more severe on his face. And then we're about to end. Wonderful. And then basically we were left with that hole. Now I've got to open the next one. You ready? Now, this one needs a serious disclaimer. There are going to be maggots, and lots of maggots, as you can see. Look at them. I'm not going to pause this at all because you can't obviously see the movement then. Look at that. That is crazy. So, you can see he's visibly uncomfortable there. Unlike the lioness, he can't lick that wound directly, so he's having to use his paw. He'll lick his paw and then wipe it on his wound, which is a reason why I think he lost so much hair. That constant wiping away actually removed quite a bit of the hair. So there the maggots are. You can see them moving inside. I'll discuss this in detail in a minute. Courtney, now you've asked what happened. It's quite strange, hey, to see maggots in his face. This is something called myiasis. Now, it's actually fairly common, and you see it typically in domestic animals, so things like sheep and that type of thing. It can also occur in humans. Now, there are 3 different types of myiasis. So basically, a fly will either lay its eggs inside a live host or on a rotting carcass, or sometimes the eggs are ingested, the larvae are ingested because of food, that type of thing. We're going to play one last clip, which is the healing, and then we'll go into what type of myiasis it is. So I've just basically told you briefly about 3 different types of myiasis. Here we go. Here's the last of the clips. Look how well that healed. Now, right up until he left us, you could just see sort of a little bit of remain. You could see something had happened there, but I was really surprised that the hair grew over that scar so well. Now you can see the swelling has gone down. He also then sustained a couple of injuries to his eye later on, but that's pretty epic. So pretty much entirely healed his face. I can't believe that. I thought he was going to be left with some serious scars. Very happy boy. But sadly, I don't think Mfumo is with us anymore. There's been no reports of him being sighted for a very long time since he moved further south. But that is not because of the myiasis. This happened quite some time ago. And there he goes. Very happy. He wasn't the best looking lion. He liked to brawl quite a bit. Him and Tinyo. We're always boxing. Cool. Right, so like I said, there's 3 different types of myiasis, and the most common type of myiasis that we typically see is the one which I think that Mfumo had. Again, this hasn't been confirmed by a vet at all, but I think that he had obligatory myiasis, where basically, whether it was from a screw fly or a bot fly, or something along a blowfly even, where they need a live host. Their larvae need a live host, and they'll typically feed on living tissue. So they were mating quite a bit. The lions were fighting quite a bit during this time, and I think that this is what I said when we first saw it, because I actually witnessed it. We think that one of the lionesses maybe gave him a swipe across the face, or potentially Tinyo did the same thing, his coalition member, and he got a small cut on his eye. And because it's a place that he can't clean very easily, and often flies like to sit in the eyes for moisture, and around their ears and around their nose, I think that one of those types of flies that I just mentioned laid its eggs inside a little wound. perfect temperature, of course, nice, warm and moist for the eggs to then hatch into larvae, and they ended up feeding around on the flesh inside. But they don't stay there forever. Once they've feasted on their meal, they then start to come out, as you would have seen. The maggots actually fell out. And Jandre was just saying he remembers a time when the maggots were streaming out like a fountain. Now, I know that's really, really gross. And then you saw, completely gone. So, facultative, obligatory, and accidental. Accidental is basically when you ingest the maggots and things like that, and it can cause a bit of diarrhea and vomiting. You sometimes see that in dogs. Actually, it's quite common in domestic pets. And then the other two are also fairly common, but I think that he had obligatory sort of myiasis. I think it was intentional. It was just really amazing that that's kind of happened. And yeah, pretty cool that he survived something like that. It's also something that you don't get to see very often, unfortunately. Well, we definitely don't see it very often. I'm so sorry, Nina. I bumped my radio and I turned the volume down. Ah, wonderful. Okay, we're going to carry on here. We're going to stop preparing for the next chats. And off you go to Steve.
Well, welcome back. My entire body is itching as I'm Googled some images of myiasis, and oh my word, there are some really shocking images out there. But here we are with the injured oldest female of the Nkuhuma Pride, who's still got flies moving around her wound, but isn't it looking fantastic? I remember last year it had healed or closed up, and then they had what we believe was an interaction with the Torchwood Pride, or was it the Talamati Pride? I can't remember. But after that, she came back and the wound was all festering and open again. And, well, flies love to land on those wounds and lay their eggs, which turn into maggots, and as Taylor's been discussing, can really fester those wounds even more. But I just got an image on Twitter from Michael Fleetwood, who has sent me a picture of this female when she was a cub, and I just need to share this with you all because this is just absolutely gorgeous. Just so that you can have a look. How's the light? There we go. Sorry. How's that, Craigo? There she is. Now, that is her in 2007. How incredible is that? So, no injuries back then. But what a strong and well sort of rounded lady she has become. Thanks, Craigo. One of the leading members of the Pride, although she is quite old now. And I haven't seen her being too involved in leading of the hunts. But then again, she is part of the Pride, and because she's had that injury, it's probably dampened her a little bit. But she still keeps up. She still manages to follow them all over the place. We've only got 6 members here. We've done a recount. Not sure where the rest are. 3 adults, or 2 adults missing, I think. Get another little head count of... Irish flame, I think there's many different types of maggots. There are many different types of fly. Many different types of flies, and I think some are beneficial and others just lead to sort of what Taylor's been talking about. And I just did a Google search of myiasis, and I got some very bad looking injuries and wounds, and I'm still crawling, in fact, from it. But yeah, some maggots will clean the flesh and eat the rotten flesh, but then I suppose you need to take them off. So I suppose they can be used to clean a wound to a point of time. Once they clean the wound, then you need to remove them. Otherwise, it's going to perpetuate and keep eating the skin and the animal away. Well, while we stay here with the Nkuhumas lying very flat in the shade, let's take you back up to the Masai Mara, where hopefully Pat's lions are performing a little bit better.
Improvement at here. Relatively close. We can still see the waterbuck right off to our right here. So it's moved quite a distance now. The rest of the Pride still hanging back where we left them.
Oh, we wish them luck.
Sorry, sir.
How are you going to make it? You got a flat tire. Just send that to our jeep.
We got a flat tyre? Sorry, everyone. I'm just speaking to someone. We got a flat one.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. He was just pulling... Sorry about that. There was someone came up and tried to pull my leg and tell me that I had a flat tyre when I didn't. So thanks for doing that while I was on live air. Anyway, back to the hunt. So, well, the failed hunt now. So they definitely still look a little bit kind of restless, like they don't want to call it a night just yet. You can see that was the one that led the charge earlier on, first one to kind of move off, and then a couple trailed behind. And if we look over to the left here, sorry for my head there, we have the whole rest of the pride. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, there's two males there. I don't see any cubs with this pride, but there is definitely cubs around here in the Mara. Let's have a look at the cubs of the Sausage Tree Pride. The cubs of the Sausage Tree Pride found a playground for themselves, equipped with a wooden jungle gym. As we know through the naming of their pride, climbing trees, especially those adorned with sausage-shaped fruits, will be an important skill for these little lion cubs to learn. Playtime is a priority, a time to explore everywhere that their tiny little legs can carry them, while remembering to eat their vegetables. A time to learn how to play nicely with each other, and a time to work on those scary lion stares. And they little cuties. I can't wait to watch them grow and develop and still hold their playfulness while they're young. And hopefully a couple of them end up being like these two, making it to be healthy young males. Because it's not something that lions often do. Only about 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 lions will actually make it past adolescence or past their first year of life. And even less make it, obviously, right on into their adulthood. So it's a tough life, especially for a male lion. You'll see that they quite often live less longer than the females as well, only about 10 years as opposed to 14 or so in females. So their whole life is really a struggle, but that is what weans out the weak from the strong. You know, the ones that can handle it, the ones that can survive it with the smarts and the brawn to back it up. They're the ones that are going to pass their genetics on to the next generation, which will be collected by them, and hopefully they'll get all the good ones and be able to do the same thing. It's all the beauty of natural selection. Oh, it seems like Lauren also has herself some cats. She's just up the road from me. Well, not just up the road, but a fair way up. Let's go say hello.
I am back. I am here. It's been a very delightful afternoon. That was sarcasm, by the way. The rain has hit us hard again, so we had to put our rain covers on. We did get a little bit stuck, and James had to dig us out. So yes, it's been wonderful. However, we are on our way to get to the North Clan at some point. It might just take us a little bit longer to get there. I do have some updates on the North Clan that I think would interest everybody, hence why we are on our way there. So there is lots of topies having fun around here. So at least some people are having fun because it's been quite a ride for us. But anyway, we did have some exciting news last week in the form of Miss Butternut, who appeared to have her own little butternut squashies. So let's go and take a look at that moment because it was rather adorable. Butternut, the unofficial name given to this female member of the Owino Pride,
was seemingly alone amongst the long grass. To our surprise and delight, it appeared she was following the faint squeak of her 3 newborn cubs, who were struggling to make their way through the greenery. Still finding their feet and sleepy from their morning adventure, Butternut headed back to the shade and seclusion of her nearby den. At this young age, the cubs are vulnerable to a range of predators, both on the ground and soaring above, leaving Butternut alert and on guard.
Wasn't that adorable? Seeing new life and cute little cubbies. So I think Butternut does have her hands full with these little ones. And out here, many of the lion prides have got cubs. We even found some with the Salt Lake prides the other night. And of course, the little sausages, don't forget. So there's new life everywhere. Even these little topies have got babies. So cute. So while we try and figure out how on earth we're going to get out of here and find this den, we are going to send you back down to South Africa to James.
Well, we've just had some very interesting stuff going on here. Corky has arrived back, and she's been calling, presumably for Plonk. She's been sticking her head into the den, calling her youngster Plonk out, but he has not yet arrived, nor has Pretty's other youngster. So in case you are new to this area, or new to this show, this is the Djuma clan den. Corky is the matriarch. She's the most dominant hyena here. She has got one son called Plonk. Pretty is the sort of next, we think, most dominant. And she has got 2 cubs here. And one of them is around. He was the kind of gangly, teenager-looking one that was around earlier. And the other we haven't seen. And then there's June, who we've got here, with her 2 youngsters. And then Ribbon, who was the original hyena when we got here, and who has moved off, has apparently got 1 youngster here. But where Plonk is, or where Pretty's other youngster is, I don't know. Now, earlier this week, we did have a situation where Corky came to look for them, or certainly for Plonk, and they were not here. And she went wandering around, howling, making that sort of whooping noise that she makes. And suddenly, he materialized from nowhere near the den, and he got beaten up by his mother, and now I don't know where he is again. And it seemed to happen the afternoon following the original disappearance as well. So I don't know that he's not become rather overconfident and wandering around, hoping for adventure with Pretty's other cub. Now, of course, one of Pretty's cubs, if I remember correctly, is male and one's female. I suspect it's a little female that's still here. And the young male, who has gone away with Plonk. So fascinating that little Plonk is not here. And I was a bit worried last time round, but he did appear, as I say. But she certainly doesn't seem particularly comfortable, the matriarch. There she is. She keeps going off and coming back looking quite wet, so I don't know if she's been at she must have been at a waterhole, having a bit of a swim. It's quite a hot afternoon. It's not blisteringly hot by any stretch. Anyway, she's calmed down now, but there she is sitting with Pretty's baby. Plonk, of course, is very easily recognizable. He's about the same size as that, but very easily recognizable by a horseshoe-shaped pattern of spots on his left back thigh. And it's a horseshoe-shaped pattern that is kind of tipped so that the front of the horseshoe faces the back of the hyena. But it's very obvious, and that's very obviously not him. So, I suppose we'll see. Is she speaking? Oh, I see. Okay, I've lost my comms of the final control. Not sure why or what happened. Let's go across to Taylor, who is sitting in the tent, probably talking about more damage.
But we're not sitting. We are standing. Can't put these down. I don't know why I took them. I just thought I needed to move around a little bit. Right, awesome to see that Corky is back. How fantastic. Hopefully young Plonk also decides to arrive back. But one thing that I did see was this morning, driving from Twin Dams, going all the way to back to Shibamo Road, where that den is I did see quite a few of young hyena tracks running up and down that fire break with the adults. So they've been misbehaving. They've been sneaking out. Right. Seeing as though Corky's made an appearance, I think it's a perfect opportunity to revisit that one time Corky made an escape from an Avoca male. It was pretty intense. So there we go. The Avoca male sneaking in. He's seen that she has had a kill. He darts on in. Doesn't even care about the kill. Grabs Corky. Look at that. And I want to just stop it there. So she tries to and hide herself away. She wants to try and hide her vital organs. Now that male lion has tried to grab her on the back. Look at her. He swipes at her. She must have bit him there that he let go. But he then goes in again and grabs her on the back. And you see how he's trying to bite her around on the neck. Oh, ooh. Let's just go back a bit there. Little rewind. Well, where is it? I want to see this. This is crazy. I'm just going to take it back a little bit. Look at that slice. No, I can't do it. I need that little... There. Look at that tiny slice there. That's a serious, serious wound. Now, that skin split open very easily. That says to me that it was potentially a claw that did that. Anyways, that's one of the wounds. Lots of bite marks on her spine. And the only reason that she got away is because Corky bit that male's foot. And you can see as he walks away, he's limping slightly, which is amazing. And I think if it wasn't for that, she would have been killed that day. I don't think she would have survived something like that. I think he would have ripped straight into her and kept biting her until she stopped moving. So we're going to watch the next clip now. We're going to have a closer look at the wound. There we go. You can see that big gaping gash on her right shoulder. It's oozing. It's split even more. And Corky disappeared after this. She ran away and she didn't come back. She's walking fine though. She didn't seem to have a limp. And she only returned after quite some time. I think over a week or so. So what she must have been doing is she must have been sleeping. And poor Plonk would have been starving. But luckily, hyenas have got such a high sort of fat and protein content in their milk that they can go. But the other injuries seemed to heal fairly quickly. It was just the one on the right shoulder that was giving her a bit of problem. So nothing like a bit of rest to help sort of fix a wound. And I think that's exactly what she did. Is she just went, she probably cowered in a little hole underneath a tree somewhere and just slept. Sleep is probably one of the best things. Now we're going to watch the final clip. We're going to see what it looked like after some time. There you go. So she's had a meal here. You can see her whole face is covered in blood, so that's good. Her belly is nice and swollen, and you can see how the flesh on the inside is starting to heal really nice. It's still a big wound though, still a big hole, but something like that will take a fair amount of time. I don't know how swimming in that putrid water would help a wound like that, but I think I don't know if she could really be able to groom that wound. She was very lucky that she managed to keep that nice and clean, because hyenas aren't really known for their sort of clean nature. They're always rolling around in something, or they've got their head stuck in a carcass. And she's very lucky that she didn't get a severe infection. Very, very lucky. Wonderful. And it is amazing. Look at her. She's all healed now. So, Carla, you're quite right. We're very, very fortunate that we still have Corky. And again, I think if it wasn't for the fact that she managed to grab hold of that evoker's paw, and with a bite force that's, you know, pretty incredible, she probably clamped down going, this is my last chance to get away. And he just went, woo, that's so, and then jumped off. And then he ran, obviously, took the kill, was like, cool, done. hyena ran off, and I can't believe it. So very, very lucky, and thank goodness Plonkus, survived the whole ordeal, because I think everyone was then worried that Plonk wasn't going to make it, because we didn't know if Corky was going to make it. And unfortunately, in the past, we have seen a couple of hyenas not making it because mom had passed on and weren't able to suckle their cubs. So pretty hectic. Anyways, very sad, but a positive outcome nonetheless. Again, just goes to show sometimes we don't need to interfere. And that's exactly what Steve's doing. He's just observing from the outside, watching the lions.
Well, everybody, quite incredible how Corky was able to survive that lion attack. And I remember actually being exactly on this road the first time I saw the Avoca males, big, fearsome boys that they've now turned out to be. And I don't know if I'd try and withstand a blow from them. It would be quite something to behold. But anyway, earlier this week, we were very lucky. Well, first of all, we've left the lions because it was getting very, very busy over there from a vehicle point of view. We're now checking our northern boundary because you never know, there could be wild dogs moving through. So we check our northern boundary to see if they are, because earlier this week, both Taylor and myself were very lucky to find the Investic pack. We managed to catch up with the original Investic pack of wild dogs on Chitwa. This pack has not been seen for some time and related to the breakaway pack that we have so often seen over the last year or so on Juma. One dog half-heartedly stalked some impala who unknowingly ventured too close to the resting dogs, while the rest of the pack lay out in the open, allowing us to identify the interesting sex ratio of 1 adult female to 8 adult males. A much anticipated hunt led to disappointment all around as the impala scattered, disappearing into the thick summer bush. Oblivious to the numerous impala in the clearings nearby, this was clearly not a day to watch the formidable hunting prowess of the African wild dog. With the exception, however, of 1 adult male, who interestingly enough enjoyed a large, foul-tasting millipede who dared to cross his path. Sorry about the pace there, just had to get through that little dip as I foresaw a little bit of signal breakup. But what is going on with a wild dog eating a millipede? I've never seen that before. I don't know if it's been recorded. I couldn't find it anywhere. They are foul-tasting creatures designed to be left alone because of their flavor. But that wild dog didn't just sniff at it. He picked it up and he didn't catch it at the end of the clip, but he physically ate the whole millipede. But it was very interesting. Maybe he's trying to add some more flavor to the smell that they already have, that overwhelming smell that wild dogs have. But I was really, really looking forward to spending some time with that pack and maybe hunting. And they attempted 2 little hunts, which were just really very disappointing, I must admit. All the hype over the years of wild dogs hunting, and obviously they were not very hungry. Hungry enough to eat a millipede, though, which I find incredible. No one really eats millipedes, civets, scorpions, and it's really about it. Nothing really else eats them because they've actually got a form of cyanide inside of them, which maybe the dog was trying to cleanse himself. Maybe he was doing some internal healing. We didn't see him vomit shortly afterwards or void his contents in any way, so who knows. But anyway, animals that are often doing funny things with their bottoms, especially around the den sites. James is still with the Juma den.
Well, let's hope the wild dog is doing some internal healing. Let's hope also that Paulie, who ate a marula out of an elephant patty this week, is also doing some internal healing. To my mind, that should have been clip of the week, actually. Anyway, here we sit at the clan den. Nothing else has happened except that a male, I think, has come up. And I think it's a male. I can't move back. He's just behind us. Is that him coming up now? Sensor's described him as an uncle with a leather jacket because he's been rolling in the mud. It's a really good description. Unfortunately, he's actually not here. He's just moved around the back. So we still have the same situation of June's 2 cubs, June, Corky the matriarch, and Pretty's 1 cub. We did actually have another male come wandering in here, a very young one. And he said hello to everybody and then wandered off as well. Quite possibly gone off to have a swim. There seems to be a lot of swimming going on the hot afternoons here. And for those of you who don't know, the new Jumaclan den here, although, well, I don't think quite as salubrious as some of the other neighbourhoods they've been in before. It does have the advantage of having a spa very close by, 2 beautifully muddy pans in which they can swim or drink during the course of the day. You can also put their food in there if they want to. Sometimes hyenas do that to mask the scent. Joy, I hope that they haven't eloped, Plonk and one of Pretty's cubs. It will be it will make Romeo and Juliet look like a fairly mature story if the 2 of those have eloped. It would be like a sort of 6-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl going off and sort of finding love somewhere. Anyway, let's hope that hasn't happened. Let's hope that they will return soon, or that they are actually inside having a sleep. I will tell you that the stink around here is fairly frightful. One of these hyenas has clearly been around some rotting flesh sometime in the recent past. I suspect also there's probably quite a lot of odour coming out of the den hole itself. Of course, the parents can't get in there to clean it. Alrighty, well, we've got the hyenas here at the Jumaclan den. Just wait 1 second. Corky is up. Corks. Let's just have a quick look and see if Plonk doesn't grace us with his presence. You see, she's been doing this kind of thing at least 3 or 4 times this afternoon. I get the impression she's not sure if Plonk's in there. Imagine being in there when this hyena breathed her fetid, foul humours inside. Something. She's definitely looking for Plonk. Oh, that youngster. The youngster was just trying to greet the matriarch there. Yeah, something very odd is going on here. Plonk is not there, I don't think. Can't believe he wouldn't have come out. Just watch the little one and see if it isn't trying to suckle. She says. Very interesting. Bit of anal pasting there, that'll contribute to the generally foul odour of the place. She looks worried to me. June also is utterly unaffected by any of this. You can see she's not moving, she's not vaguely afraid of Corky, so maybe she does outrank Pretty. Fascinating stuff. Okay, as I was saying just before she started calling, I believe that Lauren Arthur up in the Marcy Mara has managed to find a hyena, and I hope it's a member of the North Clan.
Oh, so you are back with us. We obviously did not get too badly marshmallowed, but we were not able to get to the North Clan Den, unfortunately, which was our original mission. But never mind, we have encountered 2 hyenas, actually. One's just a little bit out of our line of sight, and we have this lovely one that is walking towards us now. So they have most likely came from the North Clan Den, because we were almost there when we bumped into them, but I don't know where they're off to. They're on a bit of a mission. Now, you can probably see from the ground and the hyenas themselves that they are incredibly wet, and they are about to just walk behind the vehicle. So bear with us, you'll get a view of my face, and once they've came out the other side, we will let you get a view of the hyenas again. Now, there was a lot of talk about the matriarch, Waffles. Now, there was a lot of discussion that she is possibly resigning from her reign as Queen Way, shall we say? Normally it's Queen Bay, we'll say Queen Way, and that there was other candidates in the form of Soup and Sour. Just gonna have a look. We've got one there and one there, completely out of eye shot. And it has been confirmed by the hyena researchers that the official matriarch of the North Clan is now, in fact, Soup. It is no longer Waffles, and that has been confirmed by the research team out here. So Waffles is now submissive and acts submissive towards Soup and her offspring, Chow and Lobby. Is that right? Yes, I think that's right. So, how can I do this without getting myself stuck again? The wonders of the Mara. So yes, interesting dynamics here, and it's worth a lot of research into, because Waffles is obviously over 10 years old now. She's a much older hyena, and they can live up to 20 years in the wild, but the dynamics of the whole clan have changed, and we have been suspicious of this. Are you able to get them from here, James? Yes. There we go, having a little frolic. So we have been suspicious of the dynamics changing for some time. It just wasn't confirmed. So Waffles is no longer considered the matriarch, which is quite a turnaround, and it's also very natural. Waffles is getting old. She's produced plenty of strong and viable offspring, but now Soup, Chow and Lobby are much more dominant. And all of Waffles' most recent offspring will actually act submissively towards Soup now. So it's been confirmed, and it's going to be interesting to just watch the dynamics at this clan and see how it sort of does change in the foreseeable future. Waffles will remain at the clan. She's not going to disappear anywhere, but her sort of role and her dynamics and interactions have changed. So I thought I would just share that with you. I got the update very recently, and although we did have suspicions, it has now been confirmed. So I'm not sure what this double trouble are up to at all, but we are just going to stay in case they get up to anything exciting. So the North Clan is always busy, and of course that was a little update for you. So let's just go and see what they've been up to this past week.
With the North Clan Den overrun with cubs of all ages, it is beginning to resemble a kind of hyena nursery. Once nap time is over, the cubs are encouraged to come out of the den, explore and eat. The space in and around the den is safe for the hyenas to be their most vulnerable, allowing the cubs to suckle without any disruption. Their energy appeared endless, going well into the night. While the adult hyenas took every opportunity to rest. While the adults continued trying to catch a few winks later in the week, the cubs took it upon themselves to keep each other entertained. Not an unachievable goal for these clumsy spotted creatures. It will be exciting to see how the dynamics continue to shift and play out as these little ones grow bigger.
What an incredible clan the North Clan really are, aren't they? There is over 77 individuals identified in this clan, and of course it's a very fluid society, so it's very sort of fusion, fission action. It's not structured or linear like we would think it is. It's a very fluid society, and it just excites me how all these hyenas interact with one another. I wonder what this one is up to. Now, I'm just going to sort of throw out here, I personally, this is just a personal opinion, feel the North Clan in particular, the hyenas up here in the Mara look very, very different from the hyenas in Juma. So is there anyone else that agree with me, or is it sort of just in my head that the hyenas look very, very different? Just comparing, let's just stick to the North Clan and the Juma clan. I just feel their appearance is strikingly different, but I'm not sure if I'm the only one that thinks that. Now, I did get asked a question, but I didn't quite catch it, so if FC could just repeat that for me, I will, of course, answer it. And hopefully some of you can let me know if I'm crazy or not, or if they do appear different. Does that answer your question? I love that sound. All right, go. That's not me, by the way. That is the hyena. Barb and Linda are both agreeing that they do look different. Thank you. Yes, there is a difference. Obviously, they are both spotted hyenas, crocuta, but there is some physical difference that I feel in them, and I'm not sure I can put my finger on exactly what it is. But yeah, I'm glad some people agree with me. And that was incredible noise. Hyenas actually have 14 different vocal noises that they make. 14. And of course, the whooping that we just heard is one of them. And that's actually my favourite one. I love that sound. But the giggling that we actually all know hyenas for, this sort of evil laugh, is in fact a noise that they make when they're frustrated. So they giggle, and we tend to think of it as laughing, but it's actually a noise they make when they're not too happy. We just confuse it for them being happy because it's a giggle, but it's actually a frustrated noise. So it's not a noise that you hear too often. The whooping is the noise that you hear too often. Now, I am being asked questions, and I'm not sure if it's just the area that we are in, but it's not clear enough, unfortunately, for me to actually make out what they are. So I do apologise. Or maybe the hyena was trying to tell me what they were. Oh, right, okay, I got that. Will soup now be fitted with a collar? From Alice. Very interesting question, but I highly doubt it. Obviously, that's not us that has done that. That is the research team. And I am aware that some people have mixed feelings on it, and I can see where they're coming from, but sometimes you do need to tag or chip or collar animals just in order to get an idea of where they are in terms of GPS, so that you can locate them, so that you can learn more about them. There's no way that we would have this sort of volume of information about the North Clan and their dynamics if Waffles had not had her collar. So I really am not sure. I can't answer that question because I'm not part of the research team, but I really don't believe Soup will be fitted with the collar as long as Waffles is around. And we hope that she does stay around for longer. We hope that her time out here is not up yet, and I believe she will be. I think she will hang around. She might not be as strong as she used to be. She might not be as fast as she used to be, but she will absolutely hang around the den. She will just act a lot more submissively and live there most likely until the end end of her life. So yes, I really can't answer that question, Alice, but I don't believe she will be fitted with a collar soup. But it will be interesting to watch her be the new matriarch, won't it be? So we are going to try and go along this road if the hyenas will move out our way, but for now, let's send you back to Taylor in the tent.
No, that's not the sound that a zebra makes. Yip, 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 yip. Because here I am holding a zebra skull. We think it's a zebra skull. It could also have been a horse. This is not a real one, though. This is, I don't think. No, this has been like 3D printed or whatever you want to call it. So there we go. We're going to put that down. So who knows what we're going to talk about next? For those of you that don't know, my surname is McCurdy, and it rhymes with Hurdy. And I was once a member of the McCurdy Hurdy out here on the plains just in front of the tent. And there was a wonderful group that I used to walk very often, and they would do all sorts of crazy things like dust roll around me. What else? They'd greet one another. Didn't greet me, but I got within a couple of feet of them. It was pretty amazing. Go back and watch some of that footage. And one morning, it was really sad. We came up onto quarantine, and we found a zebra standing in the open, terrified, sort of panting really, really hard, really deep breaths, just standing there. Come and have a look what it looked like. So very sadly, this zebra had clearly been attacked by something. We knew that the lions had been in the area that evening, and I think what had happened is that the lions actually ended up grabbing hold of the zebra, and like I was describing to you how that lioness maybe was injured, you see how there's claw marks underneath. I think that lioness, or male lion, was dragging underneath the zebra trying to pull it. Now, that's the first clip. I'm going to go to the next one very quickly. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, that's so difficult. I'm really bad at this. Okie dokie, there's the zebra healing. Now, unfortunately, zebra didn't quite heal as well as we liked. This was the next day, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you can clearly see how deep those wounds are. This was shot in very early morning light, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not very super clear. It's quite grainy, as you can see. There we go. Now you can see, look how those serious lacerations. No organs hanging out, though, so there's definitely a chance that the zebra could survive. That piece of flesh, though, that has been torn from its belly, that is going to be a bit of a nuisance, a bit of a hindrance, if you will. And it actually rolled around in the sand, still eating, went down to the pan, had a drink. And I think it was very clever that the zebra rolled around in the sand, because unlike a lion that's going to lick its wounds, because this has got some serious wounds, it needed to do something to try and protect it from all those flies that will be hanging around. Now you can see that fetlock is very swollen there. I'm just going to pause it quickly. Oh. You can see there's almost bits of pus and stuff already starting to form. Sorry, that was an absolute fail. But very sad for this zebra. But it just goes to show how incredibly strong these animals are, that a zebra with such serious lacerations on it, again, no organs or anything like that hanging out, which was pretty amazing, just sort of superficial wounds. I think out of that whole thing, the leg was probably the worst injury, because it couldn't put any weight down on it. Now, that wouldn't have killed the zebra. I think that zebra could have still survived. It didn't. It ended up dying, but we'll get to that. If it had everything, it's sort of in the perfect condition, I suppose. If it didn't encounter any predators, if it managed to keep its wounds nice and clean, if it kept up eating, if it kept itself hydrated, if it kept rolling around in the sand, keeping that wound sort of covered with sand and keeping the flies away from it, I think it would have taken a long time, but I do think that it would have survived. Unfortunately, a couple of days later, we didn't see it, but one of the Djuma guides, I actually think it was Taxon, had said that there was a clan of hyenas eating a zebra at Sydney's dam. So that's quite sort of just to the north, almost on the Manuleti boundary. It kind of made sense that it was that zebra. So I think that the Djuma clan took advantage of that situation, as they would, and finished the zebra off. So very sad, not the best outcome like we've seen with the other animals sort of pulling through. But again, we don't intervene. Now, if you're wondering why we don't kind of intervene with these sorts of things, every injury that we have seen is... What's wrong? Chandra has found something. Chandra has found a jumping spider. Come, Sorry, that's what he was doing. I thought he was telling me, Taylor, you're doing weird things with your hands again, which I do. There's a little jumping spider while I tell you about what's going on. So basically, any injury to any animal that is caused naturally, so a lion attacking something, animal breaking its leg because it was running across an open plain and fell into an aardvark burrow, anything like that, we're not going to intervene with. But if it is an injury because of human interference, so if it was shot, if it was caught in a snare, anything like that, then of course, yes, a disease outbreak, for example, something was brought in like canine distemper or rabies, then we will intervene. That is the Sabi-San policy. We'll talk a little bit more about the policy in Kenya, but I'm actually going to send you there to Patrick, and he's still watching his lions from a distance.
Still here with these lions who have seemed to congregated into a little bit of a snuggle pile. I was about to say that I would give my arm and a leg to be a part of that snuggle pile, but I probably actually would have to give my arm and leg to be a part of it. But it's great to see how affectionate lions are out here. Definitely, in my personal opinion, the most affectionate animal that we actually have out here in the Mara. They are always touching, always solidifying that bond, which is actually a really important thing for them to do, because they need to work as a team. They have to work as a tight unit, whether it's a coalition or a pride of just females. They really have to work with one another and keep that group bond really tight. Now, over here we had 2 males sitting on a termite mound, and now there's one, and they were 2 younger males, and they were just kind of sitting on the outskirts of the pride. And it's kind of got me thinking, I had a little bit of discussion with Archie, it could be 2 of the Olololo young males, because they were about the age, when I last saw them, they were about this kind of age. They looked like a little bit older than they were then, so it could be them trying to get in. Now, one did kind of just waltz over and join them all in that big snuggle pile, and the other one is keeping its distance. So this is just a speculation, but it could potentially be happening, because there is one larger, older male in this pride, so perhaps they're trying to form a little bit of a coalition, as they are trying to reach that sexual maturity stage. Well, it looks like the other one's leaving the termite mound now to come over too. So whether or not they are part of the pride or not, they're definitely accepted either way. Another beautiful afternoon here in the Mara. We were very lucky to avoid the rains. There was coming down heavily before we drove out, and thankfully we just missed it. Now, a couple of birds that probably wouldn't have liked that rain as well, grey-crowned cranes, and we did get a few little sightings with them last week. Let's go check it out. The crowned crane couple used the morning to preen themselves, perched on a picturesque gardenia tree. After the thorough grooming session, the 2 scoured their surroundings, looking for somewhere to show off their pristine feathers. We came across them later in the week, gliding over the landscape, notably with their wings still glimmering in the sunlight. Definitely one of my favourite birds to see. I did actually have a nice sighting with them last night, sitting up atop a tree, just like we saw in that clip then. So this younger male is actually not going across to the pride like I thought, but they're all watching his movements. So I wonder whether he's noticed something. They're all watching pretty intently. Perhaps he's going back to that warthog carcass. Oh no, yeah, that was over that side, that's right. So that's where the warthog carcass was left, just over there in the bushes. But I dare say they would have had cleaned that thing out very quickly. Oh, maybe there is a little bit of interest here in something. Well, let's just keep watching these lions and see what happens. Let's go to James with the Juma clan.
what we've done is we've sort of moved away from the den, ostensibly to get out of the way of someone else. And we came back around here, and there we found the uncle with the leather jacket. Senzel's been telling all sorts of amusing anecdotes about, you know, that one uncle who's just a bit dodgy and probably the police are after him for various crimes, and this is him. And I don't know who this male is. I think it's a male. 99% sure it's a male. So if anybody would like to tell me who this male is, that would be wonderful. I do have the identikit out, but I must say it's not of enormous use to me, especially as he's wearing a leather jacket. If he wasn't wearing a leather jacket, it'd probably be much more useful. But I can't get a very clear look at his spots. All right, well, while you're thinking about that and who this is, we had a very nice visit from a leopardess that is normally lurking to the south of where we are, and this is what she had to say to us.
Most of Sibuyi's territory lies beyond our traversing borders, so it's always a pleasure to spend a bit of time with her. She's just over 5 years old and comes from Mala Mala to the south, so she's not closely related to the Juma royal lineage. Sibuyi has an unusual 2-2 spot pattern and does not as yet appear to have raised any successful litters. Her territory borders Guchavas to the west and south, and this week she seemed to be encroaching on the former's domain. Things are suddenly starting to look a little cramped, with Tandi, Guchava, Sibuyi and soon Tlalamba now all in close proximity. How it all plays out will no doubt be fascinating.
With the leather-jacketed uncle, and has anybody got any answers as to exactly who he is? Is that, you know what? I don't think that's mud. Is it? No, his fur is missing. There is mud there, definitely, but his fur is missing. Sinaku says Dirty Harry. Well, it certainly is dirty, but I actually think he's mangy. I think this is the mangy uncle. I didn't even look very carefully, but I don't think that he's got any... No, it's mud. It is mud. He looks a bit mangy behind his ears, but that's definitely mud there that's caked around his foot and on his shoulders. He's fine. But it does make him completely unidentifiable. Michael Fleetwood, you say it's Taka, which of course means happy. This is Happy, the hyena. Hello, Happy. Yes, you look very happy. Anyway, Corky has now started calling again into her den, so I think we'll probably move back there and see if we can't get a look at the very naughty, precocious Plonk before the end of the drive, while Uncle Taka lies here waiting for the Popo to arrive and take him away in handcuffs. I'm not sure that you can say Popo with my accent. All right, let's go back across to the Volv while we see what's going on here. I think he's probably still searching for a spotted character. Oops.
Well, thank you, James. You always know it's James when they say the Volv, definitely coming from James. But Dirty Harry the hyena. Who is he? I don't know who that is, but you were catching up with Sibuyi before, and I haven't seen that beautiful leopard. But an animal that we were looking for briefly earlier before we got that call for the Nkuhumas was Tandi, who got some injuries on her side, and I haven't seen her in some time. But apparently those injuries came from a confrontation with Sibuyi not so long ago. But where Sibuyi hangs out is sort of on the Chitwa area, an area where the wild dogs have spent a lot of time of late. And, well, we all know that wild dogs like to make wonderful sounds, and the other day all of us tried to do it, but should we go over and have a look how it's really done? Taylor caught up with Investic Pack later the same day and was thrilled to experience the unique greeting calls. These high-pitched sounds are used in greeting before the dogs get active, as well as in excited encounters over a kill or against other predators such as leopard and hyena. There is nothing quite like the calls of the wild dog, used socially to bring the pack members closer together. Marvelous sounds, and we all tried to mimic them, but horrible. I think I was given a 1 out of 10 for it. Some people were given much better numbers than myself, but how do you do that sound? It's very, very cool to hear. We all know this song by Toto called Africa, where they say wild dogs cry out in the night, searching as they grow restless, searching for some solitary company. And that's not the sound you're hearing there. That is the communication sound between them, that excited bonding that they do, not the loud whoop, which I can't do either. But anyway, marvelous to have wild dogs around. We'd love to find you some. But while we go searching, we're going to go back up to the Masai Mara with Lauren. And has she found the North Clan or not?
So now we are searching. The hyenas ran off. They were all up to something. There was 4 of them in the end. I'm not sure what they were up to, but unfortunately we lost them into the distance. So back to the North Clan. It is going to be very exciting to follow their dynamics over the next little while. I have already started. And of course, as many of you do know, Soot herself, who is now the matriarch, is indeed Waffle's granddaughter. It's not a completely unknown female. It is the same lineage. It is Waffle's lineage that has taken over. But there will still be a lot of competition, and there was actually a lot of aggression between the two, which before it was decided that Soot would take over. But she is in fact related, and she is the granddaughter. So lots of complexities there. So we are starting to lose a little bit of light, and we did lose a little bit of time to be stuck. But we're going to continue searching for some exciting things. But it's time to show you the absolute highlight of the week, the moment that has to be indeed my favourite, and I'm sure it will be yours too. Let's check it out.
With the long rains still holding out, the Mara River and its regular occupants have both been left rather empty, as seen with this crocodile tug-of-war. Without any defined lines, another crocodile approached to umpire the fight. However, the temptation appeared too much as he joined in, sending the competition into a spin. As another crocodile crept in, it appeared that 4 was a crowd, forcing the group to split. Some were left better off than others and in need of a toothpick, while others swam away in a bit of a sulk.
Wasn't that just incredible? It really was. It was an absolute highlight of the week, seeing those crocs just fighting with one another over what looked like an impala, like we have in front of us right now. We also have some water buck, but I'm not sure exactly what they were sort of having that tug of war over. But indeed, it was some sort of antelope species. And just before we arrived at the river, I believe we had just missed a kill. So an antelope of some sort had tried to cross the river, and as you can see, it's very shallow. It's definitely not full or overflowing anywhere at that time. So the impala obviously thought it would cross, and the croc managed to get it. And indeed, all 4 of them had a right tug of war and some WWF moves in there. I've never seen a crocodile roll like that before. It was so incredible. And it was nice to have a great sighting with an unusual animal for a change. So it was a shame we missed the moment it happened, so we didn't get a better context to it. But we did get there, and of course we did witness the war between the crocs. So we are going to send you back down to the tent for the little remaining while we continue our drive here in the Mara.
Look at this. I'm checking my blood pressure. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Just to see that I'm okay. Ah, it's not nice. How do I make it go down? Whew, I can breathe again. Okay, right. That's why we don't play with toys. I'd be the worst person to be in a doctor's office if left alone. Can you imagine? The doctor would walk in. I'd be on their chair. I'd spin around in their lab coat and be like, hi. Then make them sit down and I'd do a little checkup on them. Right. Now, seeing as though we were looking at that hyena with James Dirty Harry, I think his name is. Very nice. I approve of that name. And everyone was sort of unsure of whether it was mange or whether it was mud. Jandre and I were here and we were staring. It looked like on his body it was quite a bit of mud. The hair does look fine, but I think it's still there. But definitely on the back of his ear, it was his one of either his right or left ear. Thank goodness he's only got two. There was definitely mange there. The hair had completely been rubbed away. Now, unfortunately, something that we do see quite often out in the wild is mange. We see it with a variety of different animals. We've sadly seen it with the Styx Pride, where they lost all of their cubs way back in 2016, 2017. Let us not forget the jackal of Chitwa that I don't think made it too. And then the most recent, other than the hyena that we've just seen, was the Mungen boys. Come and have a look with me. Right, so Bad Mange is the name of this clip, and these are the two Mungen boys. Look, they've got quite a few little cuts and things on their legs. Now, that I don't think is related to the mange. They were obviously scrapping with a couple of other lions as they were being pushed sort of out of the pride, and they kind of just got abandoned. Now, it's a tough life for these boys, unfortunately. So, mange is a terrible thing. It is a parasite. It's a type of mite that lives beneath the skin, and it sort of lives and burrows into the hair follicle, which causes some serious agitation. And you can see it causes hair loss and scabbing. And so all that black stuff that you can see covering this lion, both of these lions' bodies, is just the bare skin. Now, the mites can actually live for quite some time outside of their living host. So they need a living host to survive. Normally the adult mites will sort of hop on to their host. They'll lay their eggs in a burrow. They hatch in a couple of days. So even though if you take your dog to the vet, say to go get treated for something like mange, you'll often find that the vet will say, please bring your dog back in 2 weeks because we'll need to treat them again, or they'll just give the medicine to you and you can treat them because those mite eggs will hatch and the whole process will start again. But mange is a natural thing. It's a disease that is found and all over the world, in fact. There are different types of mange. The mange that we're looking at here is sarcoptic mange. And it is the most widely studied mange of all the different types of manges you get out there, and it's typically found in wild animals. So this day they actually scavenged we think it was a warthog carcass from a leopard. This was one of my sightings just before I left back in October, so they did get a meal. Now, mange also comes about when animals' immune systems are weakened. It's obviously a bit of a problem. I'm going to go straight into the next clip very quickly, the healing part of this clip. And when the immune system is down, for example, when animals become starving, they haven't eaten for a while, when there's a drought, maybe they get sick, this is when mange comes in and takes over. So you can see on the left is one of the Mungen boys, and look how he's recovered. You may remember that I said he'll be fine. Unfortunately, one has not made it, the worse of the two, and the one that was doing slightly better is all good. Right, that's the end of that. So, how does an animal in the wild fix itself? Rain is really good for something like that, because with rain brings in a new lease of life. The grass starts developing, or the herbivore, the prey species that the lions will be feeding on also become fit and healthy again. We're not going to go into the white muscle disease, but we know that happened to the Nkuhuma pride and another pride in the Timbavati because of lack of nutrients within the buffalo and some of the animals. They were lacking selenium and vitamin E, and those two sort of minerals are very important, and they come from lovely lush grass. So something similar could happen with mange. They were not getting the nutrients that they needed. There were also boys that were just sent off on their own. It's a very tough time for young males like that. The thing that we've seen right from the beginning of the first clip that we played with the Nkahuma lioness is, of course, and right through to the last one we've seen, is licking. Grooming is super important. Now, researchers in Florida University did a study, and they found that there's a protein in the saliva of animals called the nerve growth factor. And they found that animals that groom themselves and lick themselves on a wound, that wound will heal twice as fast than an untreated wound, so one that has not been licked. So keeping it nice and clean, constantly grooming, picking up weight, eating healthily, that is what will help an animal get through it. Just a general boost of the immune system. But awesome. Sadly, one of the boys died, but another one is flourishing and he's doing well. Right, off you go back to James, and he's going to tell you now a bit more about who Dirty Harry is.
We are still here at the hyena den. There is no development from the point of view of Corky or Plonk, but I will tell you that Michael Fleetwood and the others have changed the identification, that was not in fact Tsaka we saw, but Comet, who is running from the Popo, not Tsaka. I'm sorry for casting aspersions on Tsaka's character. He is not in fact a gangster, unlike Comet, who clearly is. Good. Now, I'm finding this slightly sad, really, and a little bit distressing, because I'm astounded that we only have one Pretty cub out and that we do not have any Plonk. Pretty has not arrived. Pretty's remaining cub, who is here and is probably just actually out of sight of the camera, is pretty full. I think her belly's okay. She doesn't look particularly skinny. But Corky is not happy. It's probably too soon to panic. Much too soon to panic and decide that Plonk has come to some injury. And some anal pasting going on there. All right, now we don't have long, and I must just tell you that this is the last day for you to go and to fill out the survey for the Wild Earth expedition. So if you would like to come on a Wild Earth expedition and would like some say as to where they go, you can go to our social media pages. Otherwise, go to wildearth.tv and you will find the survey. It closes this evening, so please go and fill that out. Very strange goings on here. I think these are actually two little boys, both of these young hyenas here. All right, everybody, that's it for episode 38 of Safari Live. It ends on a slightly sad note, I'm afraid. All righty, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions and comments. Until the dawn, bye-bye.